History is often stranger than fiction. Some coincidences are so remarkable that they seem almost impossible, yet they undeniably exist. Among the most intriguing of these are the parallels between two of the most iconic American presidents, Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. Despite living a century apart, their lives, careers, and tragic deaths share uncanny similarities that have fascinated historians, researchers, and conspiracy enthusiasts for decades. In this exploration, we will delve into these remarkable parallels, examining them in detail and trying to understand whether they are mere coincidence or something far more mysterious. To begin with, the most obvious similarity is that both Lincoln and Kennedy were tragically assassinated while serving as President of the United States. Lincoln was shot in 1865 at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., while Kennedy was fatally shot in 1963 in Dallas, Texas. Both men were assassinated on a Friday, and in both cases, their deaths plunged the nation into profound grief. These shocking events not only ended their lives prematurely, but also left enduring marks on the collective memory of the United States, shaping its history and politics in ways that remain significant today. Moving beyond the tragic circumstances of their deaths, one of the first surprising parallels lies in the timing of their presidencies. Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860, and John F. Kennedy was elected exactly 100 years later in 1960. Both men assumed office the year following their election, during periods of intense national tension. Lincoln faced a deeply divided nation on the brink of civil war, while Kennedy confronted a world grappling with the Cold War, nuclear threats, and civil rights struggles. In each case, their leadership was tested by the turbulent eras they inherited, and their responses would define their respective legacies. Another remarkable similarity can be found in their personal circumstances and the names of those closest to them. Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy, while Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln. While this might seem like a minor coincidence, it is one of the many details that continue to baffle those studying these two presidents. Their names, too, are strikingly similar. Both surnames consist of 7 letters, both are of Irish descent, and both have achieved almost mythical status in American culture. These subtle correspondences, while not as dramatic as their assassinations, contribute to the overall sense of mysterious symmetry surrounding their lives. The circumstances of their assassinations provide even more eerie parallels. Lincoln was shot in a theater, while Kennedy was shot from a theater-like building overlooking a parade. The locations differ in scale, but both involve public spaces where crowds gathered to witness their presence. Both assassins were known by name. John Wilkes Booth killed Lincoln, and Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy. Each assassin, however, was ultimately killed before facing a full trial. Booth was hunted down and killed in a barn just days after Lincoln's death, while Oswald was shot by Jack Ruby 2 days after Kennedy was murdered. The pattern of the president being killed, followed shortly by the death of the alleged assassin, forms a striking narrative parallel that has fascinated both conspiracy theorists and casual observers alike. In addition, both presidents had children who faced tragic circumstances. Lincoln's son Robert later became a prominent political figure, while Kennedy's children became icons of American culture and history, though they also faced personal tragedies. While not identical, the pattern of familial attention, tragedy, and public interest adds another layer to the extraordinary similarities between the two families. Even the manner in which these leaders were remembered in art, literature, and public memory reflects an almost mirrored narrative of heroism, martyrdom, and enduring influence. Moreover, their political careers share an unexpected symmetry. Both were deeply involved in civil rights and social justice issues, albeit in different centuries. Lincoln is most celebrated for his role in ending slavery in the United States, issuing the Emancipation Proclamation and leading the nation through the Civil War. Kennedy, on the other hand, is remembered for his support of the civil rights movement, his advocacy for equality, and his stirring speeches that inspired generations. Both presidents sought to unify a divided nation, championed freedom and justice, and left behind ideals that continue to resonate in the modern era. These remarkable parallels, from election dates to personal tragedies, from secretarial names to assassination circumstances, create a web of coincidences that seem almost too precise to be random. Yet, it is important to approach these comparisons with a critical mind. Historians caution against overemphasizing coincidence, reminding us that humans naturally seek patterns and meaning even where none may exist. Still, the sheer number and specificity of these similarities make it difficult to ignore the mysterious connections between Lincoln and Kennedy. Delving deeper into the details of their assassinations reveals an even more astonishing pattern of coincidences. Abraham Lincoln was shot at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., while John F. Kennedy was shot while riding in a Lincoln car manufactured by Ford. The subtle irony of these connections, a theater versus a car, and the Lincoln name appearing in both contexts, strikes many as almost surreal. Furthermore, both men were shot in the presence of their wives. Mary Todd Lincoln witnessed her husband's tragic fate, just as Jacqueline Kennedy was beside John F. Kennedy during his fatal moments. These personal tragedies, witnessed by their closest companions, add an intimate dimension to the public horror of their deaths. The day and timing of the assassinations are equally striking. Both presidents were killed on a Friday, as if the day itself held some ominous significance. Lincoln was shot in the evening during a theater performance, a moment meant for relaxation and entertainment, while Kennedy was struck in the middle of the afternoon during a public parade, a moment intended for celebration and community. In both cases, the normalcy of the moment made the tragedy even more jarring, heightening the shock experienced by the public. The assassins' lives and deaths form another layer of eerie symmetry. John Wilkes Booth, who killed Lincoln, was born in 1838. Lee Harvey Oswald, who killed Kennedy, was born exactly 100 years later in 1939. Both men were known to be acting largely alone, and yet their murders were followed by their own deaths before they could be fully tried. Booth was hunted down and shot in a barn, while Oswald was killed by Jack Ruby in a public space filled with media attention. The fact that both assassins met premature ends adds to the almost storybook quality of the events. It is as if the narrative closed in a similarly dramatic way for both cases, leaving the public with questions and suspicions that have persisted for generations. Beyond the immediate circumstances of their deaths, the political and societal context surrounding both events amplifies the sense of uncanny similarity. Lincoln's assassination occurred at the end of the Civil War, during a time when the nation was painfully divided over slavery and the question of union. Kennedy's assassination happened during a period of intense tension in the Cold War, coupled with domestic struggles over civil rights. Both presidents became symbols of hope and unity in tumultuous times, only to be violently taken from their nation when their leadership was needed most. Their deaths, therefore, did not merely remove leaders, they symbolically shook the foundations of an already fragile society. Moreover, the public response to both assassinations followed remarkably similar trajectories. In both cases, the nation was plunged into mourning on a massive scale. Lincoln's funeral procession stretched for miles, with citizens lining the streets in sorrow, while Kennedy's funeral saw millions of Americans participating in a similar display of grief. In both instances, the funerals became defining moments in national memory, reinforcing the legendary status of the two men. The mourning of the public, the media coverage, and the commemorations have created almost mirror images in the way American society processes tragedy and heroism. Even some of the lesser-known coincidences are striking. Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy, while Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln, a detail often cited as one of the most remarkable coincidences. Furthermore, both presidents were deeply involved in advancing social change and human rights. Lincoln is remembered primarily for ending slavery and preserving the Union, while Kennedy is celebrated for his progressive stance on civil rights and inspiring Americans to envision a better, more equitable society. Both men faced fierce political opposition, Yet their dedication to principles of justice and equality has made their legacies enduring and universally admired. These parallels, from their lives to their deaths, from their leadership challenges to the manner in which they were mourned, form a tapestry of coincidences that is difficult to dismiss. Scholars argue that some patterns might be overemphasized, a product of the human tendency to find meaning in chance. Yet the convergence of dates, circumstances, names, and social impacts creates a sense of mysterious symmetry. Lincoln and Kennedy, despite being separated by a century, continue to be connected in ways that intrigue, puzzle, and inspire those who study American history. Beyond the assassinations and the immediate circumstances of their deaths, the lives of Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy reveal a number of smaller but equally striking coincidences that continue to fascinate historians and enthusiasts alike. For example, both men were deeply engaged in politics during pivotal moments of societal change. Lincoln began his political career in the Illinois state legislature, eventually becoming a lawyer and rising through local and national politics, while Kennedy's early political work included serving in the House of Representatives and the Senate before becoming president. Both men demonstrated exceptional skill in navigating political challenges, gaining popularity for their eloquence, charisma, and commitment to public service. Another uncanny similarity lies in their approach to personal habits and lifestyle. Lincoln was known for his contemplative nature, often spending long hours alone in reflection or reading, which allowed him to develop deep insight into the human condition. Kennedy, too, was recognized for his intellectual curiosity and reflective tendencies, often engaging in discussions on philosophy, history, and the arts with close advisors. Both men displayed a sense of strategic thinking and foresight that extended beyond mere political maneuvering. They sought to understand the broader consequences of their decisions on society and the world. The connections extend even to their families and social circles. Lincoln had 4 sons, though only one, Robert, lived to adulthood and became a notable figure in politics. Kennedy had 4 children as well, and the tragic events that befell his family, such as the premature deaths of 2 of his children, echoed the vulnerability and public scrutiny that Lincoln's family experienced. In both cases, the families became emblematic of the costs of leadership and the personal sacrifices that accompany public service. Their private lives, while intensely scrutinized, reflected broader social narratives about family, tragedy, and resilience. Even some of the smaller details of their lives seem to mirror each other in ways that are almost too precise to ignore. Both Lincoln and Kennedy were deeply committed to the causes of equality and justice, and both faced immense opposition in doing so. Lincoln contended with secessionist states and a nation divided over slavery, while Kennedy dealt with entrenched segregation and the broader struggle for civil rights. Both men used speeches to inspire and mobilize the public, leaving behind oratory that is still studied and celebrated for its rhetorical power and moral clarity. Their words resonated far beyond their lifetimes, embedding themselves in the cultural consciousness of the United States. An additional set of coincidences can be observed in the manner their deaths affected succession and political transition. Lincoln was succeeded by Andrew Johnson, a man from the South who faced enormous challenges in navigating the Reconstruction era. Kennedy was succeeded by Lyndon B. Johnson, a Southern politician who faced a similarly turbulent path in advancing civil rights legislation. Both successions were fraught with tension and political complexity, yet each successor played a pivotal role in shaping the post-assassination era. This continuity further reinforces the parallels between the 2 presidencies, highlighting how both men's legacies were intertwined with the challenges that followed their deaths. Their cultural legacies also share remarkable symmetry. Lincoln has become a symbol of moral courage, unity, and the fight against injustice. Kennedy, likewise, is remembered as an emblem of youthful optimism, progressive vision, and social reform. Both have inspired countless books, films, and academic studies, with their lives and deaths becoming reference points for discussions on leadership, morality, and the human spirit. Schools, public buildings, and monuments commemorate both men, cementing their status as iconic figures in American history. Even the coincidences related to names and dates continue to capture attention. Lincoln's secretary was named Kennedy, while Kennedy's secretary was named Lincoln. Both were elected to Congress exactly 100 years apart, and both ascended to the presidency exactly 100 years apart as well. The number of letters in their names, the timing of their careers, and the remarkable alignment of personal, professional, and tragic elements make these parallels especially compelling. While skeptics argue that patterns can be found in any historical narrative if one looks hard enough, the sheer number of correlations between Lincoln and Kennedy stretches the bounds of plausibility and invites reflection on the mysteries of history. These astonishing parallels, extending from life to death, politics to personal habits, and public legacy to cultural memory, create an intricate web of coincidences that continues to fascinate historians, writers, and curious minds around the world. Whether viewed as extraordinary coincidence, as evidence of patterns in history, or simply as a reminder of the fragility and unpredictability of life, the connections between Lincoln and Kennedy remain one of the most compelling narratives in American history. The enduring fascination with Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy extends far beyond the events of their lives and deaths. Their uncanny parallels have sparked endless debates, theories, and reflections, highlighting humanity's desire to find meaning and patterns in history. The story of these two presidents has transcended historical documentation to become a cultural phenomenon, inspiring books, documentaries, and discussions about fate, coincidence, and the mysterious threads that seem to weave through time. One of the most compelling aspects of these parallels is how they continue to shape public imagination. The coincidences between Lincoln and Kennedy have become a staple in popular culture, often cited as examples of the strange and inexplicable ways history can mirror itself. School children, journalists, and historians alike are captivated by the narrative. Two visionary leaders, separated by a century, sharing eerie similarities in life, leadership, tragedy, and legacy. These parallels serve as reminders that history is not only a collection of facts, but also a source of stories that inspire wonder, reflection, and sometimes even awe. The fascination has also given rise to numerous conspiracy theories. Some suggest that the coincidences indicate a hidden hand guiding history, though most historians argue that such claims are speculative at best. Others believe that the parallels are simply examples of statistical anomalies amplified by human pattern recognition, the tendency to find connections and significance where randomness may exist. Yet, the sheer specificity of the correlations, names, dates, secretaries, political circumstances, assassins, and successor profiles, makes the Lincoln-Kennedy comparison uniquely compelling. Even skeptics are often forced to pause and marvel at the depth of these similarities. Beyond conspiracy and speculation, the parallels also invite reflection on the human dimension of leadership. Lincoln and Kennedy were both symbols of hope in turbulent times. Lincoln faced a divided nation on the brink of collapse, while Kennedy confronted global tensions and domestic upheaval. Their deaths, occurring at the height of their influence, magnified their impact and transformed them into almost mythic figures. In mourning these leaders, Americans not only grappled with loss, but also with the ideals these presidents represented: freedom, equality, justice, and the enduring belief in the possibility of a better future. This cultural resonance has persisted for generations, influencing literature, cinema, political discourse, and public consciousness. Interestingly, the fascination with Lincoln and Kennedy goes beyond their presidencies to include the minutiae of their lives. Scholars and enthusiasts alike continue to explore every angle: the names of their children, the positions of their seats during important events, even the types of clothing they wore during public appearances. While some of these details may seem trivial, collectively they create a narrative web that feels almost storybook-like in its coherence. The accumulation of coincidences fosters a sense of narrative symmetry, making the Lincoln-Kennedy connection one of the most discussed and enduring historical parallels in the modern era. In addition, these parallels have inspired reflection on the nature of history itself. The comparison between Lincoln and Kennedy encourages people to consider the ways in which events are interconnected, how patterns can emerge across decades, and how individual actions can resonate long after a life has ended. By examining these similarities, historians, students, and casual observers alike are reminded that history is both linear and cyclical, shaped by individuals yet influenced by broader societal forces, chance occurrences, and sometimes inexplicable alignments. Finally, the story of Lincoln and Kennedy serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility and unpredictability of life. Both men were leaders whose vision and courage left an indelible mark on their nation, yet both were cut down in their prime. Their deaths highlight the vulnerability inherent in public life, the weight of responsibility carried by those in positions of power, and the profound impact of fate and chance. In this way, the parallels between Lincoln and Kennedy are not merely curiosities. They are lessons, reflections, and narratives that continue to captivate the imagination of generations. In conclusion, the strange and numerous parallels between Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy remain one of the most fascinating subjects in American history. From the tragic coincidences of their assassinations to the remarkable alignments in their lives, careers, and legacies, the story of these two presidents is a testament to the mystery, complexity, and richness of human history. Whether one views these parallels as fate coincidence or simply a compelling historical narrative, there is no denying that the lives of Lincoln and Kennedy are intertwined in a way that continues to intrigue, inspire, and provoke reflection more than a century apart.